Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you're watching this, people. Welcome back to another installment of my Monday weekly review show where it's still Marvelous Mondays, where we're still looking at Cloak and Dagger with probably the most heavily emotionally and politically and probably just character charged episode thus far of Call Response. This episode is a lot, so we're gonna save the big crux of the wraparound at the end as we do both POVs at the tandem of certain stuff. They don't intertwine with each other for these POVs, but the wraparound is the biggest part where it comes out to be the biggest story structure. So let's focus.
Oh my goodness. Are you alright?
Let's focus on the lighter side of stuff by going to Tandy's POV.
Okay, so this episode was kind of all over the place. And what I mean by that is, from the last episode, we saw them at the church at the end where they wanted to talk. And we got all about that, which we'll go over. You said at the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so for what I gather for everything else, so Tandy ends up going to visit her mom to talk to her about her dad because, why not? They get talking about Greg, they talk about her dad, and then Tandy basically goes to talk to Greg about her father. Obviously, this is an ongoing battle with her mom in the sake of trying to get answers and, trying to win in this battle that they've been having since her father was killed. I got the impression that Greg wanted to, in fact, help Tandy, and obviously her mom. I mean, they are dating after a while, her mom and Greg. So they're, working together, they're actually working as a team. They're talking, they're not, Tandy's not actually, being hateful or shady toward Greg. And then that night, they're having dinner at the house when Greg gets a phone call from, I don't know if it was a girlfriend or ex-wife, or I think ex-wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife. And he ends up answering it. Well, her mom ends up basically lying about having a job interview, which we knew better. And she says she's going to bed. Well, when Tandy left, or was getting ready to leave, she found out that her mom, who was going through this rough time and stuff, they broke up. She broke up with them. Well, on the way back to Greg's office, she finds that Greg gets shot by some strange woman and then sets the building on fire. And then some more stuff happened at the end, which, again, we won't go into detail because of trigger warnings, but something happens. She goes back to Greg's office after it's already been, burnt to a crisp. And gets some files that was in a safe locked up. Hopefully answers about her dad. So that's all I got.
I mean,
I feel like this episode was very Tyrone driven, so that's why I was like, I don't got much.
That's why that was the more lighthearted affair. So,
yeah.
Tyrone, we're gonna get into the crux about why both of them were doing what they were doing separate from the other, because the talk of the church is a lot. But,
it is.
Let's see. Tyrone, at the start of the episode, is trying to distance himself from his parents because he wants to get information on the detective that shot Billy, not understanding that Vice doesn't work in the same office building as other police officers. They work in a different division altogether. Sometimes they're in the field undercover. But Tyrone doesn't know this, and he's having a panic attack because he is, as I've said when me and Shan were watching this the first time in previous episodes, he's a black kid in the South in a police department. The math ain't mathin'. If you know, you know. But the math ain't fucking mathin'. So, he has a justified, in my opinion, panic attacking gets the fuck out of the police station. And then he goes home because his plan did not work. What was the plan, you might be asking? He staged a whole thing where his bike got stolen by taking his dad's bolt cutters, destroying his own bike lock and then throwing it under an underpass. Very, very smart private school education. Great way to do a con on the police. No one would suspect a thing.
No.
So, so the dad is just like, okay, son, I was a little bit pissed off. I was a little bit angry. I almost got to the tool shed. You know what I was missing? My bolt cutters. And then Ty, the genius, was just like, nah, dad, you can't go through my bag. So the dad yanks the bag away, sees the bolt cutters, and is just like, I know what this is. You were trying to rob someone. What the? Dad, no. What? You were trying to break into something. Again, no. Completely wrong tree. They have this whole big back and forth. He gets very angry with his dad, which, honestly, with all the stuff going through Tyrone's head, it's understandable why he's so angry, but at the same time, it's like not helping anybody.
That
So,
also being said, I completely understand and know where the father's coming from. Like, I can't be mad at him either.
oh, I'm not mad at any party. This is a very
Right.
weird situation. But to help sort Tyrone out, his dad, Otis, decides to take him to one of the interwoven wards within the Louisiana area. One of the interwoven wards is kind of like one of the subgroups within the black community that you can find in Louisiana. They don't always say it outright because if you guys know about Louisianan history, there are reasons why black communities don't just say there are subsects that go off throughout each state. There are many different groups within groups that black people have that no one really wants to talk about, and it's for good reason. So we're introduced to the Ninth Ward of the Wild Red Hawks, as we're finding out that Billy was actually with this group because he was trained to be a spy boy. Spy boy being, of course, someone that is the head spy, that is a boy, that alerts the ward to all different dangers and to problems. Probably tied to certain things ancestrally, because minorities, as you all can attest with me, my fellow minorities, it's hard out here because there's danger everywhere and you always feel like a victim in this country. It's never gonna stop. So hearing all this, they were then talking about how there are regalias that people work on and try to sew up and make into these beautiful vestiges. And so Tyrone decides to get his own regalia to start doing some sewing and beadwork on, and chooses the iconic cloak that Shan was like, his cloak!
It's your cloak!
Not knowing that Billy was working on it before he died. And so we kind of have it to where at this time Tyrone decides that at this very moment maybe I should find some structure, get some balance in my life, not be so angry with my parents, and try to do better, like be more open with them, be more honest, and try to work out this aggression that's building up inside of me as I'm still just trying to wrestle with what's in my head about the talks I had with Tandy, which kind of stops where he's trying to talk to Detective O'Reilly about stuff where I promise, guys, we will talk about O'Reilly in better detail later because I know who it is. I know exactly who she is, but I can't say much about who she is because this is Shan's first time. Which now I think is the perfect time for us to finally talk about the big wraparound of this episode, the church time. About the whole back and forth in time for both of them, where for the first time, we're not going to split the difference, we're going to talk about it together.
Woo!
So, Shan, let's talk about the church. That was.
Ooh. First of all, before going into context, I understand why some people say that are questioning, are they a thing? I get it. But also, no. Uh, maybe. Where to begin? That's the question.
Um. I think this is probably the first time in the show where they get to talk for a change, because I think where you're more used to, they're doing a lot of jokes and quips, like how Tony and Cap first met in the Avengers film. It was all just jokes and levity with very chipper music. Instead, for this, it's very dour, very serious, very atmospheric, where they both feel on edge with the other as they're talking, to just kind of set the
Yeah,
mood of they're strangers and they have a connection, but they're ultimately still strangers.
yeah. I think they're just trying to like figure out like what the hell's going on. Talking about how she sees hopes, he sees
Fears.
like their fears. Um, Sorry, there's a strange noise in my room. We're gonna ignore that. And just trying to like figure out, try to put piece by piece as like why this could potentially be happening the way that it's happening, and why like she saw stuff about him and why he saw things about her.
At the same time, though, they talk to each other about the other powers that they have and find the interesting little contrast between the two, because Tandy has the powers that Tyrone wishes that he has, of he's the more hopeful of the two. He embodies someone that's just like, life's not terrible. There's more that you can do with life. But he also really wants to stab that cop and probably other people. We're thinking of the basketball refs from episode 1. We will never let them
Dude,
go.
I'm forever thinking about them. They sucked.
And Tandy is always just dwelling and thriving in fear. Like everything that she just tries to focus around is the fear and loathing, and she wants to run away. Where Cloak's abilities of trying to teleport, or Dagger's abilities to, to construct hope daggers, is very prevalent, to where they both wish they had the other's powers, but they ended up with the opposite for a reason. And it's a very sweet moment for them, along with, I guess, learning how to con people. I don't know what the fuck Tanny was doing for that whole thing. I will never understand.
You gotta learn about other people. You can't just go and do something because you're in anger, and you need to figure out who your target is and learn more about them.
But then we get to the moment that Shan was like, I understand now, where they're just like, so let's touch each other. Not like that, you weirdos.
Say not like that, you sickos.
But they're just like, how close can they get to each other before the feedback just erupts? And they get to just touching hands and touching face before they just get blown back across the church to different corners.
Which, to which made me made the comment of, if the you touching makes things go boom, this church about to explode. And again, not like that, you sickos.
There are only 16 in this adaptation, you weirdos. At least I think so. They both qualify as 16. Anyway, so we then get into deeper convos where they're happy to talk to one another with someone that understands. Like, they both are saying that they have or had a relationship. It's up in the air for this whole stuff. But they feel like there's kinship until it gets serious for, like, the big crux of why they're not talking in this episode. Where, again, this is probably what makes it to where my standards are where they are, because of writing like this. And whenever I try to show people product or productions like this, I should say, I think it finally allows people to understand why my standards are where they are. No matter what year the stuff came out, if the production itself is solid, I will forever say this is why I'm harder on that. What I mean by that is, in this very moment in the church, Tyrone and Tandy are talking about how the other is viewing life after the storm, where Billy was shot by the cop, her dad was killed in the storm, and while Tyrone is busy feeling like he has to live for both lives, Tandy wants to run away from everything and just check out of the Life Hotel. She doesn't understand this. She doesn't know how to deal with this, but it's so heavy for herself that every day when she's crushing up pills to then just herself up the nose, it's just, it's sad, but then it just goes into the whole big thing where it becomes very character, very ethically, very politically, and very socially charged for like the last bit where Tandy wants to just be like, oh, Tyrone, you're in this kind of community, so you don't have the right to be mad at me. But then Tandy gets it thrown back at her because she's a white woman in the world, and Tyrone will always be a black man in the world. It becomes so heavily charged up to where it's understandable why they both end up saying stuff that they kind of regret by the end of the episode, because you can kind of see that they both need to talk to the other in small spurts here and there, but they can't go back to the other because their pride is in the way and they've said some stuff they can't take back. Most notably, when Tyrone was just like, if you want to check out of the Life Hotel so much, you should just check out already. And then Tandy wanted to make stuff worse by not understanding how to read the room, and now they're separated.
Which then leads into the other parts where it kept going back and forth. When it was like more present instead of in the church, that's what everything that happened after they left the church. So you get both sides at the same time.
This is probably why I think for you, Shan, especially, this is probably an episode showcasing why I'm so much harder on the Disney Plus shows than many other people, because of a show like this with writing like this during like the late 2010s in comparison to other stuff with the MCU. It's definitely why I'm much more harder with why Kevin is an executive producer. I think, I don't know, there's dust
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yep.
But this is your first time seeing all this, so what were your thoughts for episode 4?
It's still going good. I will say I feel like with me not really expecting what this episode was going to bring, I feel like with the back and forth, it was slightly confusing only for the fact of I was trying to put the pieces together while the church ones were still happening separate versus what was happening present day. Like, I was understanding the concept of it all, but trying to keep up. It's like, okay, this is happening. No, now this is happening. No, wait, we gotta go back to this time. And it was okay. It was good for what it was. Like, I don't really know. No, scratch that, reverse it. It was something I felt like we needed. But no, it was pretty good, considering.
So, we're going on strong with this, where it's like, where could we go from here for like the first 4 episodes? In probably the month where this is probably not that a great time to cover stuff like this. Well, we got 6 more episodes to go, where next episode is Princeton Offense. I don't know what to really say about this one, because it looks like we're gonna have another basketball episode, so
I hope they're different refs, bruh. I'm about to start throwing hands.
I'm about to be just elbowing motherfuckers in the throat, just being like, what the fuck you mean there's no call on the court, ref? You seen a player getting knocked up, chest out, all this sort of shit. You just gonna stand there like some bitch? Fuck you. But we're gonna get to that when we get to it. This has been a very interesting way to open up Marvelous Mondays for February, where I still don't know how to feel after all of this. Like, for me, it's great. As a minority, as someone that is just racially ambiguous, I love watching stuff like this. But to cover this during a time in America where you're not allowed to say that this month is Black History Month anymore because of it's a weird time for me. What do you think, buddy?
Buddy?
Oh, buddy don't want to acknowledge it. He's just like, February is Black History Month to me.
Mm.
But we'll catch y'all on the flip, where maybe by the time I'm done doing both seasons of Cloak and Dagger, we can go back to all my other weekly stuff I need to finish, like Troy, Fall of a Kingdom, which I've been putting off because I hate the Trojan War.
Ooh.
Anyway, you guys be good. Try not to have your law office set on fire, and if you're gonna take bolt cutters, make sure you put them back where you found them before your dad just yoinks your backpack away.
And if you need to start touching one another, use caution.
Because it might cause an explosion.
In the church. Because that one audio on TikTok/Vine that I've seen. If they find out we can shapeshift, they're going to tell the church.